Hi everyone, in today's video I just want to talk about what equipment I use to record all the audio at weddings and how I actually use them. So the biggest tip I want to give you is always have backups, you're backing up your backups. All my equipment is listed on kit.com and I put the link in the description below. So the first bit of equipment that I use at weddings that can actually record audio is what I'm filming on today, the Canon C200. But I don't plug in my fancy Rode mic, especially when it's on the glide cam. It's a bit too bulky, so I use the inbuilt microphone. But I don't actually use the audio, okay? So what I use it for is the backup of the backup of the backup. Literally, if I had to use this audio, it would be last resort. But it is great for syncing up all the other audio devices, especially at the ceremony. Then I've got my B cam, which is my Canon 6D Mark II, which I have the Rode mic plugged into. And again, this is just a backup of a backup. I've never had to use it. Then I've got all my handheld audio. So I've got my Zoom H5, my 2 Zoom F1s lapel mics, and I've got 3 Olympus little audio devices, which I'm probably looking to upgrade in the future to the Zoom H1s. So the first time that you might need to record a bit of audio at a wedding is the groom prep and the bride prep. This might not be every time, but it does happen. So again, I'm always recording all the audio onto the C200, but my go-to is the Zoom H5. I don't put a lapel mic on anyone. I know some people do. They even put it on the bride, but if she's in one of those little nighty things, I'd rather just get the Zoom H5 as close as you can to the bride or the groom. Just underneath them to the side, but as close as you can. And for some strange reason, if I do forget the H5, which I have done in the past, I've always got my iPhone, and the same principle, get it as close as you can to the bride or the groom. And when I'm at bride prep, I'm there usually when the makeup artists arrive, so they're a good few hours, but I'm not always there. So sometimes I might go outside, get some shots of the building and everything, and then I'll use this to capture some nice ambience noises as well, like birds tweeting, that sort of thing. So it is really handy, this. The next is the big one, the ceremony. And to me, this is the most important one where you need to capture the audio. So again, I've got the audio on my 2 cameras. And ideally, if they've got the room mic'd up themselves with the registrar or the celebrant talking into a microphone, anyone doing readings where they've got a microphone set up, I will use my H5 and plug in, I've got loads of different cables, but I literally plug into the soundboard to pick up all that audio. So I've got another video on how I actually it's only a short video on how I plug my H5 into the soundboard. And then I always put on the groom the Zoom F1. But what I do is I use these little stickies. They're only about £5 for a pack of 30, so they're quite cheap, really good. And the best thing about it is you can put it on in the inside of the jacket, stick it on, and then for photos and the video you can't actually see the microphone, and it literally picks up the audio perfectly. And again, I've got another video on how I mic up the groom and what actual settings I use on my F1 to have that perfect quality audio, which even in post I hardly touch. It's literally straight out the audio device is good enough. And then I have the 3 Olympus mics dotted around the room, usually 2 very close to the bride and groom and the celebrant, or the registrar, just to, they are my go-to backups. So if there aren't any microphones, what I do is I put a H5 as close as I can, because usually there's a table in front of them where they're getting married. So I usually have that on there. Try and hide it quite nicely because you don't want it in the shots for especially the photographer. I'll put another Zoom F1 on the registrar But to be honest, the groom's mic usually picks up the groom, the bride and the registrar quite nicely. If there's other readings going on, ideally if there's a separate table or anything, I'll put one of the Olympus mics on there. And it's just literally, it's communicating with whoever's running the ceremony. Is ask them questions. Have you got any people doing readings? Where are they going to stand? If they just say in the middle of the room, you can always suggest ideas and say, well, you know, I'm recording this. Ideally, I need them near an audio device. I had it at one wedding. It was actually my third wedding I did, and I didn't ask this question, and they literally stood up in the middle of the room, and I had to do a lot of post-production work to get the audio. Just to be honest, I wasn't pleased with it. It was like just workable. So again, it's just ask. Now I know. It's like once you've done a load of weddings, you just know these things. It's asking questions. Because when I first went into it, I was always just trying to be following the photographer, you know, being in the background, didn't want to get in anyone's way. But now I've realised that's how I still act. I'm still discreet and everything like that. But if you want to get the perfect audio, it's just ask questions on the day. Just try and don't be bossy, but suggest ideas as well. As you've heard, I've got other microphones dotted around the room. It's literally have backups of your backups, because all these devices do run on batteries. And before each job, I put in a new set of batteries anyway. But you know, they can fail, and if you've got them dotted around the room and you're not monitoring them, you know, you're not working in. I used to work in I did video production for 10 years for a company that I wasn't working in live events. It was literally a controlled environment. I can monitor everything, and if something went wrong, I just say cut, let's do it again. But a wedding is, you know, it's a live event. You're not monitoring all your audio devices, and the couple are paying you to capture their ceremony, and that includes the audio. So just have backups of your backups. So once the main for me, the ceremony is the most stressful part. Well, not stressful, but you know, it's just you've got a lot going on. You've just come from bride prep. You've got sometimes 5-10 minutes to get everything set up. You know, you're rushing, so you don't want to miss anything. So once that's over, the next time that I usually record any audio is the announcement of the new Mr. and Mrs. And over my experiences, this can vary. This can be as soon as the ceremony is over, everyone leaves, goes to another room, and then the bride and groom make a nice entrance. So for this, to be honest, I just use the C200. It's when I put it in the film, in my films, it's good enough quality. I'm filming them. It's kind of like I've got the music still playing, and you just hear someone shout, "Welcome the new Mr. and Mrs." But sometimes I've had it just once so a few hours later, you know, you've done the bride and groom photo shoot, everything like that. All the guests have had their canopies. Now they're going to have their wedding breakfast. So, and sometimes at the wedding breakfast, you've either got the speeches before, after, or sometimes during. And I've had it where they've had their starters, then they've had a speech. They've had their main course, they've had a speech. Then they've had their dessert, and then had a speech. And as you may know, this is what I hate. I'd either have them all before or all after, because when everyone's having their food, it gives us a chance to sort of, you know, go through our footage, have a little break, have a drink, have food ourselves. But if you've got to look in, have they had their starters? No, you know, it's just really annoying. But that's me ranting. Anyway, so to capture the audio here is, again, I'll have my H5. Ideally, if the venue's got microphones, I'll plug straight into a soundboard. And then I'll put the Olympus mics, 3 of them, all on the top table, because that's where usually you got the father of the bride does his speech, the groom, then the best man. Even though I have had it where I've had about 5 other people do speeches as well. But I always find out who's doing the speeches and where, because I have had it where the best men were on another table and they stood up quite near the table. So I'd always have a microphone there. And sometimes in that case, I might even put one of my Zoom F1s on, one on the groom and one on the best man. I don't usually do the father of the bride. They usually like to just stand up where they are in their seats. So one of the Olympuses will work. But again, you know, they're your backups. If they're on the microphone and I've got straight into the soundboard, that's perfect. But sometimes these venues have fancy, I've had it where they've had fancy soundboards, fancy audio setups, and I can't actually plug into the soundboard, but they've still got their mics. So I'll have, in that case, I have my H5 on the table, usually in front of the groom, one of my Olympuses near one of the speakers actually, because that's where everything's coming out of. And then in post, I'll usually listen to them all and decide which ones captured the best. But again, it's you having your backups of your backups. I'm always having it recorded onto the C200 and my 6D Mark II as well. And then just backtracking slightly, where they might do an announcement of here comes Mr. and Mrs. blah blah blah, is if you're plugged into the soundboard, then it picks up through there, because if they've done the announcement over the mic, or sometimes it's the best man says it, and you've got all your other audio recorders devices, you know, on the top table, that picks them up as well, plus on the camera. So you've got yourself covered. After the speeches, the last time that you might have to record a bit of audio, and make sure you've got your licenses here, is from the band or the DJ. And again, I've plugged in, from a DJ, I've plugged directly into the soundboard. And one wedding I actually did, they had a band, and they suggested, because they literally had about 8 different people in this band, and one of the guys suggested what they do is they had a Zoom H1 at the back of the room, nice and high, and it just picks up the audio nicely there. So I usually have one into the soundboard, a couple of mics sort of either side of the back of the room, one by the speaker, and then obviously I'm recording onto the C200, but I don't record everything continuously. I do for the first dance, but when everyone's dancing, I'm like stopping and starting all the time. But my style is, you know, I use music from Soundstripe, which I've got 10% off, which I put the code and the link in the description below. And that's why I usually use my music for the first dance and all the dancing afterwards. But on my, you know, pre-meet with the couple, I do ask, do you want me to use sort of music from there, or do you want me to use your first dance? And you know, I have it mixed. Some people say, no, I want you to use the first dance. So obviously, got to get your music licensing sorted for that. So I use, I think it's PRS. I can even put a description in the link below for that. So for about 12 quid, you're able to record audio live, and then they can use it privately. So when I do my highlights video that you usually see on Facebook and on the internet, that'll be from Soundstripe. That's one piece of music from Soundstripe. But for their feature film, if they want their first dance music, I record that live, and then just basically dub it over. That's what you're doing, and that's what you can do with this license. So I know I sort of rambled on a little bit, but I hope you learned a lot from this. So please check out my other videos. I am now, you know, when I first started my YouTube channel, I think I posted 3 videos about a year ago. So what I'm trying to do now is get my YouTube channel back up and running. I am mainly making it wedding specific, because to be honest, that's about 50% of my business. I do weddings, corporate, promotional, but I think I'm mainly, this channel's mainly to help other wedding videographers, not only in the UK, around the world. You know, I'm going to post some other videos that I've put out, but you know, like the camera settings I use, you know, anyone can use these worldwide. So, you know, if you like my video, please subscribe and like it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.